Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alfred Dean. We have Spigs18 or Anthony. And just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch or give us a subscribe over on YouTube. It really helps our channel out tremendously and we'd appreciate it tremendously. But Dean, what are we doing here tonight?
Oh, well, we're going to have some fun. We're doing nothing other than, going to talk to a couple of ladies who really don't need an introduction, but they're going to get one anyway. So we'd like to welcome none other than Shanna Germain and Tammie Webb Ryan. Shanna has been a writer and editor for nearly 30 years. She has 10 novels, multiple games, hundreds of short stories, and so much more. She's taken home awards to include multiple Emmys, Origin Awards for Best Game of the Year, the C. Hamilton Bailey Fellowship, the Auntie Reader publication, and, she's the co-owner and managing editor at Monte Cook Games. Wow, what a resume, right? But then, we got Tammie Webb Ryan here too. She's the administration manager of MCG and probably one of the nicest people in all of existence. Tammie found gaming through playtesting the Deadlands and was hooked on RPGs from that point. Tammie has also been a freelancer in the industry as well, working for both Wizards of the Coast and Last Unicorn Games. And when not answering emails, paying bills, or taking care of the MCG community like only she can and does, Tammie still finds time to game with her family, Charles Ryan and her 2 children. It's just awesome. So welcome, ladies. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
You forgot Tammie's also the honorary mother of the Cypher Unlimited crew.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Of everyone. Just listen.
So welcome, guys. We're so happy to have you guys back on. This is awesome. You're 2 of my favorite people in all the world. So I always look up to, look forward to chatting with you guys. Welcome back to the CU. It's been a while. I've been trying to get Shauna on, and we always tell Tammie to come on. You guys are too busy, but that's a good thing. So before we even get to everybody wants talking about Old Gods of Appalachia. Before we even get there, I wanted to talk about another Kickstarter that recently fulfilled Tidal Blades to great success. Can you guys tell us a little bit about that setting and about the project as a whole for someone that missed the Kickstarter?
Yeah, so it's a collaboration that we got to do, and we don't get to do a lot of collaborations. We're pretty picky about who we interact, who we work with, because we want it to be a great team and a good fit. And this team was just so perfect for us. They're wonderful people, who're super creative, and they have this beautiful board game called Tidal Blades, and the setting and the art just kind of blew us away. It's this really hopeful, positive, sort of ocean heavy world where you can play everything from sort of an axolotl. It's called something different in the game, but it's an axolotl, and turtles and crocodiles and humans. And so you get like a whole range of characters to play, some who are better in water and some who are better in land. And it's just so hopeful and community based. And I feel like in today's world, a little hope and community and kindness. It was so fun to build a game around that, where you're just helping each other do fun, cool things and building up the community. So it's really different in that way. And it was part of what I loved. And when you get to work with people who embody the sort of essence of the game in that way, it's even better. It was such a great working relationship. We had a great time with it.
And it had turtle people.
I mean, it all looks so good. Everything we've seen throughout that Kickstarter, and like all the little bits and pieces of the lore and about the the animal people, it's just all so stellar.
Yeah, the anthropomorphic people just really cinch it, along with the fact that what I dig about it, because I initially wasn't gonna back it for the game, but then I turned around and said, let me get the game as well. Can't wait to sit around the table with the family, and I've already got ideas to use the game itself, the board game, in conjunction with the actual Cypher system game. So it's going to be great. It's a really great inspirational piece of work.
The writing for that project is done already, right?
Yeah, we finished it prior to the Kickstarter launching, just to make sure that they could get it out as soon as they, because of the supply chain issues, everything is very slow right now. And so we wanted to finish it for them before the Kickstarter, so that, because they're going to do the fulfillment and the distribution and the printing. And so they're probably already, pretty far into that process. So yeah, it was, and I think that too, we knew that we wanted to be able to really talk a lot about what was in the game, because there was a second board game coming out. And so we wanted people to be able to distinguish between kind of what they already had, if they had the first board game, and then what they were getting, both with the RPG and the second board game.
When we did our interview with Mr. Cuddington, we had mentioned that we thought you were the perfect fit out of the entire MCG crew to actually work on this project. It just screamed like it was in your wheelhouse. At least that's what I thought when I first heard that you were.
I do love water settings very, very much. Like Subnautica is like my game of my heart as far as like a video game, because it's all set in the water and I love it so much. And I mean, the Mr. Cuddington team, the two of them work on all of this art together and share it. And like, what a beautiful collaboration. Like, I feel like that's something that all of us want, is someone who knows us so well that you can make this beautiful thing kind of side by side. I thought that was really cool.
I mean, it is a pretty amazing thing to watch it all unfold the way it's, the way it's actually moving and grooving. And, you talking about the water settings is crazy, because I've always, like you said, loved that concept. I love the underwater. I used to watch Sequest and, what is it, the other one that they had, the DSV one, and, all of those different shows as a kid, the Man from Atlantis, wanting to be underwater, and every time I try to run it in an RPG, it kind of like falls apart or something. So now I finally got an excuse. It's one whole full game. You can't get away from it. It's awesome.
And one of the great parts about this setting in particular is that the water is so essential to the setting and to the characters that there isn't most characters have ways to be amazing in the water. So it's not like, oh, suddenly I'm in the water and everything is harder, or I can't swim very fast, or so there's all these really cool water abilities that only work in the water, and they allow you to do really awesome things. And there's also all this like water racing things, because there's all these sort of jet ski kind of vehicles. And so like you might have, for your driving skill, you might be able to like drive this water vehicle super fast and like use it to block things. And so it was really fun to come up with ways to make being in the water really fun, as opposed to just sort of a slog, which sometimes it can be, because it is harder, it's harder to do things in the water, and you want to represent that. But with creatures that are sort of native-ish to the water, you could do a lot more fun things with it.
Most definitely. And that's awesome to hear that about the jet skis or whatever have you, that one of my favorite folk guy, Drives Like a Maniac, will be viable.
Yes, it's totally in there. Yep.
Very excited to try that out within Tidal Blades now. But yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say it has some really fun abilities that I had a lot of fun making. So I hope you love it.
I have a feeling we're all gonna love it very much. I actually voted for it in our recent top top 3 or favorite settings that we got to vote. Yeah, it's not even out yet, but I put it in my top 3. That's how excited I am for it.
We'll touch on that a little bit, but we actually had several projects that haven't been. Old Gods of Appalachia actually received like over 10 votes, and the Kickstarter wasn't even announced yet.
Yeah, the Kickstarter was announced. It just
it was announced.
But speaking of Old Gods, right? We're here to talk about Tidal Blades a little bit, and Old Gods, and both of these are worlds that were created by other writers. How different is it to design and make games based on another company's intellectual properties and concepts? And is your writing process any different when working on a pre-existing world?
Wow, that's a great and complex question. So they've been very different experiences so far. One is, it was really very, in a lot of ways, it was very collaborative with Tidal Blades, because because it was a board game, the setting wasn't quite as fleshed out, at least in the public facing eye. So like Mr. Cunnington, which is the duo that did the art, had a lot of stuff in their head. So they knew a lot of the world setting and they had a lot of ideas, but a lot of it hadn't been written down publicly because they just didn't need it for the board game. And so a lot of it was having them create a wiki for me so that I could see what they thought of as headcanon. At things that had to be in there and made canon, actual canon, so that we could start from there and then really push the boundaries of what that was. So there was a lot of collaboration early on because there was so little stuff out there already. With the podcast, there's so much stuff out there already to dig into that I haven't even sort of started that process of like what's beyond the published stuff. And because it's the opposite, and the other one we made the whole game and then did the Kickstarter, and this one we're doing the Kickstarter and then made the game, we'll make the game. It's a very different process. And so we haven't even really gotten into the collaboration stuff. And one of the things that is awesome is that Tammie is like this amazing resource for all this stuff and is really great at being like, here's what we're thinking. What do you think about this? And in a way where I'm just sort of heads down, make the thing, and then be like, ta-da, what do you guys think? And then I cry whenever it hates it. So
nobody hates it.
So having Tammie like being there sort of on this team is I think going to be a huge asset and is going to make it totally different than the last experience. So I'm actually really excited to see kind of what that is. As far as building within the world, I really like the creativity that comes out of constraints. I find that like if I'm given certain parameters, as long as they're not too tight and there's lots of room to move in there, I found that actually enhances my creativity because it's like, okay, well, here are the things that we know exist. Like, so the place your mind goes first, you maybe can't do. And so then you're like, all right, well, what if I combine this and this and this and sort of mush them all together and see what we get? And so I suspect there will be a lot of that where like, there are constraints because there's this big world that's already been built. And so what can we build in there? I actually was taking notes earlier on my phone as I was listening to music and there were lyrics and I was like, oh, that's going to be a creature in this game. So I'm already thinking about it, but it is
that's awesome.
Early in the process still.
Mr. Cunnington mentioned when we spoke to them that you were actually a great help to them because you made them think of the world in a way that they would have never thought of. Like you gave them all these questions that they didn't have to answer. But you sparked them to be like, you know what? We never thought of that. Let's go back and figure this out.
It's true. A really good example of that is money, because the board game has fruit as the sort of currency, which makes sense in a board game. And in a real world, I'm like, people aren't going to carry around 100 bags of fruit in order to buy a meal. Like, we need to figure out what this looks like. And it was really fun to actually sort of see that realization, and then also like have all these conversations about like, okay, so fruit, like people might still use fruit the way that people sort of still use coins now, but it's only to pay for like really small things and it's one fruit. And so what do they actually use in a way that doesn't require them to load their cart up with fruit and go to the store? So
they also mentioned normal animals. They said that they didn't think about normal animals until they spoke to you.
It's true. It was an interesting challenge because so many of their creatures were like the size of mountains. And I'm like, we need some creatures that are like little, like this we can interact with, because this tier 1 character going out to fight a mountain-sized thing in the middle of the ocean. I was like, we need to give more range. And it was really fun. They're really creative. So
I was just, I was gonna say, you said something that was beautiful because it's the thing that MCG does so well. You guys do set up these massive, undeniably inspirational worlds. They have parameters, but they're so wide open. They allow your creativity. They spark the creativity of people, and you ask yourself these questions: what can I do in here? And as a writer myself, I love the work from MCG because it's all inspirational in that manner. It really, so keep up the great work, keep doing what you do, you keep getting my Anthony and Al's money, we'll bet on you all day long, with that being said, we're gonna slide right on in, Tammie, and you can chime in on this one because we're gonna talk about Old Gods of Appalachia. is already, well, when we wrote the notes, it was at 4.34 million, and now it's at 1.44 million. It's crazy. This is
Crazy.
awesome. So, this is zooming past stretch goal after stretch goal. It's caught the eyes of a lot of role-playing games. People were fans of dark eldritch horror and alternate depiction of the Appalachians in the 1920s and 30s. Can you guys tell our viewers or give our viewers a bit of an overview of this project and, what makes it so near and dear to your hearts?
Tammie, you got to take that one.
Okay, well, first I'll talk a little bit about how, incredibly thankful we are for all of the support, because I feel like we've taken like the audience from the podcast and we've taken the Cypher universe, and it's been a really, really great match. And then we've also reached out to people who didn't know either, but who like to play in horror games. And they have found this to be a really incredibly interesting setting that we have posited before them. So I think that being from the area, we want to make sure that we're very representative of the people and the love and the heart that they have, and how important the land is to them and to me. And Shanna is an amazing writer, and I have I can't think of another, I know a lot of people in the industry, right? I just cannot think of another voice that I want to hear making this game, right? So I was a fan of this podcast. I've been a Patreon backer for a long time, right? Of the podcast, Old Gods of Appalachia. And I was listening to it and I got Charles into it, and like everything in this podcast. So the crickets, the crickets can make me cry, because I grew up and I'm like, those are my crickets and frogs, man, those are my frogs, so everything about the things that Steve and Cam do, the voices that they bring to it, and I think who can write this, who can bring this to life, right? And I know that we're here on the same podcast, and she's the owner of the company, but damn it, she's the best to do this, right? she's got the voice, it's lyrical. It's so much of our language, the Appalachian language, is storytelling, and it's pacing, and it's choosing the right words, and it's choosing the right cadence, and man, it's going to be awesome.
Listening to Tammie talk is such a perfect example of she has such a great cadence, right? Couldn't you just listen to her talk forever? It's awesome.
Tammie, this isn't one of our questions, but it just made me think of it. Is there a word that someone from Appalachia would say that it's unique to to Appalachia, that someone
I don't know, I have to think about that one.
There's certain words that you could tell somebody's from an area like that.
Oh, of course. Oh gosh, yes, we have lots of turns of phrase that if you hear somebody talking about, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank because we're live, but yeah, absolutely. If I hear somebody talking, I'm like, I know where they're from, or I know which side of the mountain they grew up on, or whatever.
That's awesome. And once again, this isn't one of our questions, but it just made me think of it. How did you guys hook up to actually create this project? Did you approach them, or did they approach you?
It was actually a middle person that we both knew. So it's Jordan of Dread Singles. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you totally should, because he's amazing. He writes really cool, dark stuff. And he knew both of us. He's worked for Old Gods of Appalachia. And he and I met a long, long time ago, and talk about writing all the time and all that kind of stuff. And he asked if we ever did licenses, because there was this podcast that was thinking about doing an RPG. And so he connected us. And of course, as soon as I was like, hey, what do you guys think of this? Tammie was like, yes, please. I love them. And so it ended up just being one of those wonderful moments of really good people connecting really good people and making a good fit. And so, yeah, that kind of serendipity, I don't think happens very often. So it's pretty awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. This Kickstarter, like so many of the other great MCG Kickstarters, that has a ton of freaking add-ons and stretch goals, is ridiculous. You already have a dice tray, premium dice, XP deck, GM screen, campaign journal, script set, character portfolios, a poster map. You even got a freaking plushie. This is so awesome. And I haven't even started about the online tools and the book upgrades. Do y'all guys have a personal favorite that you would recommend backers to, go and purchase or go check out?
Well, my personal favorite, probably, it's going to be really hard to choose, right? But I think that it was sort of my suggestion to do the Old Gods of Appalachia 10, the thing that, because, growing up in the Appalachian region, you see one of those 10s and you're like, am I going to get cookies or am I going to get sewing equipment? Is this mama a sewing kit or, and I have my mother's passed away, but I do have hers, right? And I keep it because this is what she used. And I think it speaks a lot to the frugality of the region, right? Because until fairly recently, there wasn't a lot of commerce that would come in through the area, right? So like if you had a glass jar, or we drank out of mason jars, we recycled everything. The recycling happened naturally because you were like, oh, this is a good box. I'm gonna keep this box, you did it because you might need it. So I think the 10 is probably one of my absolute favorite things. How about you, Shanna?
I thought for sure you were going to say Sam. I know you love it.
I do. I love Sam so much, but yeah.
It's a little bit complicated at this point because I feel like when I look at the products going forward, I think, oh, I haven't even made them yet. So, so am I gonna, there's that. I love this thing, but also work. So I'm gonna pick the script coins actually because I got to work on those and sort of, it was the first little bit of world building I did where we knew that we wanted to make these script coins, which are the coins that like the railroad companies give out, and you can only spend them at their store, and they're all like the products are often really expensive, so it's a super shitty deal, really. But the scripts are really cool looking, and so I got to spend a lot of time researching like all the different kinds, and like they all have like punches in them, and they think it might be because it was cheaper if they had like less material, but also because it kind of signified like something unique to that. And so I got to start making up some of the companies that would give these script away and what they would look like and where they were located and what their like sort of insignia was. And so that was the first sort of bit of world building that I got to do for the Kickstarter. So that's kind of near and dear to my heart at this point. And I got to work with Bear on that, who then sort of took my like really like very sketchy ideas and turned them into something amazing and beautiful.
That's awesome. Okay, Dean.
I was just gonna say, and I just wanted to bring this up and tell you, Tammie, we had talked a little bit before, because of the, the sensitivity stuff and people were having issues. And it's been fun for me because I've actually been talking to a lot of my friends and a lot of family and people I know, both Native, being part Native American and African American. And I just basically started pointing out to them that, this is the perfect opportunity for us to tell our, Lovecraft Country style stories. That this is a gateway in and beyond, and it's going to be so cool because now people are starting to understand that it's not, there's no closed doors. MCG doesn't close doors. You guys are so inclusive, and I needed to, people out there need to know that it's in good hands. We have nothing to worry about, with this project. So keep up the great work, guys. Just stuff that you're talking about, it brings tears to my eyes because it just takes me back, to those old days going down there with my family and stuff. We used to drive through Lynchburg and all of that kind of stuff, and it's just great stuff. So
the 10 reminded me of my childhood going to Puerto Rico. I used to visit my grandmother every year in Puerto Rico, and they were pig farmers, and every child that lived there, that's where they kept their fishing lures. So when I see those tins, it reminds me of fishing in Puerto Rico, which is which is weird. But like everyone fished. So everyone would have, when they were going fishing, they'd break out their little tin and they'll have all their lures, their bait and stuff like that. So it just made me think of that when I saw the tins. It reminded me of fishing for some weird reason.
That reminds, I recently watched this amazing video. I think it was called, and I'm afraid I can't remember the speaker, but it was called something like don't ask me where I'm from, ask me where I'm local. And she was someone who had grown up all over the world. And she had, one of the things that I loved about her speech was she was talking about the way in which we are the same, even when we come from completely different places. And I feel like the Tin stories are like one of those, right? Where everyone has a story that's part of their culture and part of their heritage. And it's this thread that connects us, even though like most people would say that the two of you grew up in such different places that you couldn't possibly have like a similar thread. And yet there's one, right? And I love those moments so much. I think that's so cool. That was totally off topic, but I'm sort of in love with this.
It's actually on topic because
off topic is sort of our thing. No one.
Yeah, someone had said in chat, forgive me if I'm butchering the name, Ifrit Thief. That's really cool. I totally grew up with tins getting reused in my family too. It's just something everybody went through. Everybody, you never look at that tin and think there's cookies inside. Never. And when there's cookies inside, it's the most surprising thing in the world.
I have these things all around the house. I can't get rid of them because like when I buy Altoids, you know, I can put dice in that one. Oh, you know, and I've got bigger ones, you know. But like you said, it's always that thing, you know. So.
We always had Christmas bows in my grandmother's, like to reuse Christmas bows, and they wouldn't get squished. So like you would open a cookie tin, it would just be full of Christmas bows with tape hanging off them.
Like I said, they're all over the place.
I still reuse Christmas bows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody else
would bow. I throw it away.
Don't throw that bowl away. It's perfectly good.
That's right.
But yeah. So, since the game here, Old God, is it, all right. So let me ask this question for myself: is it Appalachia or Appalachia?
Tammie.
So, again, you know, so it's Appalachia typically. Now there are regions that pronounce it Appalachia, and that's legit. But for this podcast and this game, it's Appalachia, and you can think about it as in I'm going to throw an Appalachia.
Okay, I will never forget that.
Exactly.
All right, so since
actually, we're gonna clip that because that's actually perfect. We're gonna share that out. That's a perfect clip.
It's perfect. But either way, since Old Gods of Appalachia, it's based on a podcast of the same name, and it's by Steve Shell, Cam Collins. We mentioned them already. How closely are you guys going to be sticking to the show and setting material? And do you guys have permission to create additional lore for the world for this game?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it kind of encompasses the two parts. And the one part is taking what's canon and staying within the parameters of that canon so that we're not breaking anything and doing things like giving them stats that seem right for the essence of that entity, like a creature or a Cypher, and places like so getting those right will be super, super important, because the worst experience, right, is where you love a thing and you read a thing or you listen to a thing and you're like, and then you go and play the game and you're like, that's not right, like that's not what happened. So we'll do our best to keep with it, and Cam and Steve will give us feedback and work with us and make sure that that's all good. And then the other part is we have to make all these new things so that you can tell games at the table that don't involve things that you've already interacted with. So there will be a lot of that as well. And so we'll be working closely with Steve and Cam to make sure the canon's right. And then Tammie in particular is going to be a huge help in making sure that the world is right, the setting that we're making up is right to the region. So there will be kind of those two parts. And you can see from the primer that we did that there's already a little bit of that, right? We brought in the hounds, which are these really cool creatures that exist in the podcast, and gave them stats, right? So that was sort of our first, how does this work? How do we take this really cool, lush and lyrical entity and make it mechanical without it losing its awesomeness? And then we also made up some new creatures, like the creature that's in the video and some other ones. So we'll see a lot of that. I suspect by the end, it'll probably be about, I don't hold me to this because none of it's been written, but like a third to half of the podcast, and then the rest of it will be all new stuff too. Does that seem right, Tammie?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
You kind of answered my next question. So I'm gonna kind of, I'm gonna still ask it because the question was basically how close are you guys staying to real world locations, and Shanna kind of, gave that away. So are we gonna see any other allegories? I mean, this is an alternate, an alternate world or an alternate history, if you will. Are we gonna see any other allegories to maybe the rest of the world, or are we gonna stick, solely in West Virginia? And with the Eldritch horror in general. I mean, did you guys do like extra research on Eldritch horror in West Virginia?
I think it's a little early to sort of nail down that question because we are still sort of figuring it out. But I do think that we will definitely stay within the Appalachia region. And so probably my guess is the way that it often works for me is like you sort of you sort of narrow in like this, you zoom in on the place in which the podcast is mainly set, and we get lots of details and we stick to canon, then we add some additional stuff. And then the farther you zoom out, typically the less detailed it becomes. So we'll have more towns or more places. And we do have this amazing railroad map that we're making as part of the Kickstarter. And I already have some ideas for like an adventure where you get to ride the railroad and like go visit all these places. And, some of them will be places that are in the podcast and some of them will be places that we create just for the game.
Nice.
That sounds awesome. And not related question, but the artwork is so thought-provoking and exciting. This artwork, we say that about every project, but this right here is on the next level.
The beautiful part about what you at MCG always seem to do is find a way to find art that evokes the actual game itself, the setting. When I look at Claim the Sky versus the Origin, they're similar, but they're not, and they evoke different things. So with Anthony saying with Old Gods, it's like, I do get that, I get that old feeling, reading those old Lovecraftian tales and, the old Cthulhu black and white movies where it was smoke and mirrors, where it was your imagination scaring the hell out of you versus something actually being there. You can scare yourself better than anybody can. And it's really cool that the artwork does that because it's like, what is that? What am I seeing? So I'm so happy with this.
Charles in chat wrote that it's based on the real Wise County, Esau, right?
Esau.
Wise backwards. And that's where you grew up, Tammie? I
grew up in Wise County. Mm-hmm.
That's
so did
crazy.
Cam and
That's
Steve.
So near to you, yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, speaking of which, Tammie, this is your first writing credit for Monte Cook Games, right?
Well, we're not sure where it's going to go, right? But so it will be some type of assistant design credit. We don't know, right? I don't know. I'm here to support the game. I am so freaking happy that this game is getting made. I will do anything. I will hand deliver it.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me.
Tammie, wait a minute.
I will.
Tammie, wait a minute. Tammie, you just said you'll do anything? Would you like to do a game? Would you like to run a game
for us on Cypher Unlimited?
Run us a game? We would love to stream you running us in the game. Have Shanna
I
along.
love that.
And Shanna, you come along too for the ride?
That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
Tammie doesn't usually get me in trouble with her phone issues.
Woo, taking us all down.
Charles is next up anyway, but now Tammie is running Old Gods for us. It's locked in. We have
Charles said to ask you about running for Cam and Steve.
It is one of the first things that we did when the license was a potential. They wanted to know what the Cypher system was all about, and so we did not play exactly Old Gods, but we sort of played adjacent. Because I was very clear, this is we're taking the Cypher system, which is this incredibly rich, very narrative system. It's a really great fit for the Old Gods world. And we're gonna play in this world a little bit. And they both really loved it, and they loved how I think one of the things that some of us old timers may get a little stuck on is where's my list of skills, and it's like this world just frees you up, right? Like they would be like, I can try anything. I was like, you can try anything. I'm not saying you're gonna make it, but you can try anything, So.
Did you TPK them? Please tell me.
No. I wanted the game to be made, right?
Had to show them a good time.
That's right.
Oh my
You
goodness.
know, I have this GM intrusion now. Let me hold it off. We want this project to happen.
We kind of touched on this a little bit already. More Dean praising y'all about it, but this setting seems to touch on some topics and tropes that are very mature and dark at times. MCG has always been a pioneer in consent and sensitivity. Do you guys plan to have sensitivity readers? And is there anything from the show that you anticipate to be too much for the RPG book?
Whoa, that's an interesting question. Tammie, do you have thoughts?
No, I think you should take this one. Woo.
I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus.
Yes.
So we always use sensitivity readers if there's a call for it, and I think this game in particular there will be a call for it because there's all kinds of dark and complicated things. And a sensitivity reader is different than a cultural reader. So a cultural reader is like, is the culture right? Is the language right? Are the names right? You know, is the verisimilitude of the world you're creating correct? And then a sensitivity reader obviously does more sensitive topics. I don't know if one of the great things about RPGs, as you guys know, is that you can raise it up or down depending on the level you want at the table. So while I don't think that there's anything in the podcast that's going to be too much to be part of the game, I'm sure we'll do something at the beginning of the book that's like, hey, this is this is dark and creepy and scary, and like here's some ways to make sure that you're bringing it to the level of your table. You know, it's not like you're not going to bring your 5-year-old to this game, right? I mean, I guess you could, but I don't think I recommend it. And so we'll have a lot of both GM and player tools for making sure that the game is at the level that everyone wants it to be, and that you can sort of back off or bow out if things get too hard or weird or scary. But I think, you know, you have to kind of go all in a game that's horror based, because it's so much about the mood and the feel and sort of evoking that sense of disquiet. And so in order to do that and do that well, you have to be able to say up front, like, here's the things you should talk about, because it is going to be hard and scary and weird. And so, yeah, I think that both of those things, we're willing to push all the way to the wall because it's this kind of game. And we're also willing to say, like, you don't have to go all the way to the wall. You can stop here, 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 here. And here's some ways to do that if it feels better at your table.
And
So,
I think
Shanna,
that also honors the podcast, right? Because I mean, anybody who's a listener of the podcast, I mean, you know, when Steve says listener discretion is advised. I mean, you know, every time that is before every, you know that, and they will actually call out things like this podcast might be too heavy. Like, I know we were talking about Sam getting, you know, Fearless and Good earlier. And I was like, oh, they brought a dog. Nope, not going to listen anymore. I'm done. And, you know, they were like, take it easy, family, take it easy. We got this, you know, so.
Chat mentioned it, but I was thinking it as well. So you're saying there's never going to be an Old Gods, No Thank You Evil crossover?
No, thank you, Old
Never
Gods.
say never. Tammie said she'd do anything, so now we have our next.
Oh no!
That's the next. I spoiled the next Kickstarter.
And that would be tough.
I mean, guys, we've had such a blast, you know, but is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience, you know, anything else they need to know about Old Gods of Appalachia that we haven't mentioned or touched on? You know, anything you want to get out there for the world to know, you know, who might be sitting on the fence?
No, what do you think, Tam?
I think that if you are on the fence and you've downloaded the primer and you've looked at all the rewards and you haven't listened to the podcast, you know, try that. Or if it's the opposite, you know, download the primer. I mean, we've really tried hard, because one of the often chief complaints about Kickstarters are when it's a new property like this, in the sense that it's being made into a game, is I don't know what this game is going to be like. And so we have tried so very hard to show you through the primer. I mean, Shanna worked so hard on that, right? So like, we've tried very hard. This is the tone of the game. These are the types of things you'll be doing, you know, heart and and family and the things that matter to you. These are the themes of the game. So, you know, if you're on the fence, I'd say take a ride, you know, just come with us. We promise we're going to treat you right.
I love
And
it.
I can second that. I think everybody, you know, from the CU right here will second that. They take care of you. I have never been disappointed with anything that I've spent money on through MCG. You know,
Aw.
my back wall over there behind me is filled. I have every product that they've ever put out and would not change a thing. I'd spend the money all over again.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, the track record speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
You don't have to take our words for it. You could easily look it up on your own. You know, every Kickstarter they've ever done has been fully funded and have given a ton of additional stretch goals. We've done videos on it. You always get more than what you put in. That's a given. You know, and I know it's hard coming from us because we're Cypher Unlimited, but you can research it yourself. You know, anything MCG does on Kickstarter is always top notch. It's always funny. You always get your product on time, and you always get more than what you put in financially, which is the most important thing for a consumer. So, you know, we can't say enough about, you know, Cypher Monte Cook Games Kickstarter record. It speaks for itself.
And you know, we may be Cypher Unlimited, but you know, Cypher Unlimited kind of speaks for itself too. There's 4,000 people out there and growing who like to hang out with us, you know. So, you know, you guys are doing a great job. To keep it up, you know, as long as you keep doing what you're doing, we're gonna be here to support you and, you know, sing the praises of MCG. So
We asked chat for some questions. You guys don't mind if you stick back for a few minutes to take some questions from chat, do you?
Bring them.
Mhm.
I say,
All
and
right,
then give me answer them all.
Al, you want to ask the first question?
Yeah, I'll dive right in. So Tight 5 Rugger, I don't know if that's meant to be read as a S, but either way, Tight 5 Rugger asks, will Old Gods of Appalachia be covered by the same third-party content guidelines?
Is probably way
Oh,
too
the
early.
SDR. Yeah.
Probably not because it's licensed is my guess. But yeah, I think it's too early to actually know that for sure.
and
Thinking though, I like it.
Dogfish Food asks, will we see material that's closer to modern day?
There will be a section that talks about using your game in modern day, because some of the podcasts are in modern day, and so we want to honor people for whom those might be their favorite podcasts. And I think that we'll also do like a lot of cross-referencing. So like if you want to do modern day, we'll give you some additional like suggestions for things like nonfiction resources and things like that, and some fiction as well.
I love the period pieces, though. I'm a sucker for period
yeah,
pieces.
I think, you know, certain things just should be what they are.
Yeah.
Carol Lastrophy asks, oh God feels so focused on family and community. It's certainly still very early on in the process, but has there been any thought about guidance or mechanics to bring major focus onto building and defending a community, whether baked into the game via character arcs or maybe community-wide character arcs or an adventure?
So early in the process, I don't want to say something and be held to it. So be like, just with the caveat that like we're still sort of figuring these things out. But I think that it's different than say like the Numenera idea community for me, where you're sort of building up a community in a world where there is not community. Here in Old Gods of Appalachia, there is community, and it is tight and it is important. And so you're protecting rather than creating. Of course, you could sort of just kludge your game together at the table and use the Numenera like crafting and build a community, and that was totally your prerogative, and it would probably be super fun. But I think that the focus narratively is more about protecting what you have. That doesn't mean that there isn't sort of building up and getting better. Tammie, does that sound like, what else do you want to add to that?
No, that sounds perfect. I agree with that. It's absolutely.
This isn't from the chat, but it just made me think, are the characters from the podcast going to be directly in the book?
Some of them will be as NPCs. So you'll be able to like encounter some of the really, really cool NPCs. And some of them will be like get full page write-ups as we do like in the back of the book with NPCs, and then some of them will just get their levels and be sort of more story based, so that you might run into them and encounter them and chat with them and that kind of stuff. So
Everybody in chat is writing Sam.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, so
is it backwards? I can't tell.
No, it's good. Looks good.
Okay.
the next question we have here from the audience is from our good buddy Gonza Gaming, or Chris. He asks, what are some other literature we should be reading to get that rural horror vibe, or movies or comic books, kind of like Swamp Thing?
Tammie, do you want to start? I know you sent a full list of great nonfiction books too.
I mostly because I will be helping build. I brought my bedside book over here, so this is my stack of stuff that I'm kind of going through. That is because I'm really going to try to help Shanna with the setting. So I can't really. I've gone too much in that direction, Shanna, to think about the fiction side. So
that's totally legit. I have a whole list of things that I'm reading. I just finished The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher, which was lovely and great. And most of these books are things that have threads, like they're set in Appalachia, but they're not sort of necessarily kind of old gods-y. They're just supernatural and cool and weird and interesting. And so I've been reading a lot of that kind of stuff. Hellboy, the Crooked Man is a comic that's set there. Sherry Priest has a bunch of books. Vile Afflictions by Caitlin Kiernan. I'm about to read Every Bone a Prayer. I can't remember the author of that one. I keep forgetting. And Southern Gods by John Horner Jacobs is a great too. Yeah. So I'm currently looking for shows and movies that do this well. So if people have suggestions, drop them to me. I watched a couple of movies and they were, let's just say they were not great. So if you have really great resource material in movies or shows, I'm all ears.
Surprisingly, West Virginia has been the stage for a lot of horror movies. I was shocked. Like I Googled like West Virginia movies and like 90% of them are like B horror movies.
Well, you know, and I'm going to say this. I don't know, Shanna, if you have ever felt this way, but B movies, B grade movies, especially from the 80s and 90s, have so much strong story content, so much strong story material. They're very inspirational. They may not have had the best effects. They may not have had the best writing, you know, or should I say best acting, but the writing is top notch and the passion. So, you know.
And also, you also have the scenes where the person is running and you can still see a piece of the boom mic over there.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the production value is like 32 cents, but, you know, they were using those script coins to pay for it.
Oh, they were paying for the camera crew and fruit.
Exactly. But, you know.
Claire from the Construct asks, will this game possibly have some more defined skills that are specific to the setting and the culture of the area?
For sure. One of my great joys is the lyricism of the setting. And so coming up with skill names that have this like sense of, even Tammie and I were talking, because there's a skill that I came up with and we weren't sure whether to call it, was it Speaks with the Devil or Speak with the Devil? I can't remember now, but just that kind of like difference in language, like whether you speak with devils or you speak with the devil, or like, and so there will be, I'm getting off topic, but there were lots of new cool skills. And part of the reason for that is because I just love coming up with really great like skill names. You can be like, I use my, you know, whatever amazing language. And so there will be a lot that are really tailored toward the setting, tailored toward the magic specifically that exists there, tailored toward the culture. So there's lots of cool, and this is also true for ciphers and artifacts, which have been so much fun to think about and make, and to like Tammie and I have had such great discussions about that, about like what goes into the cipher and what's cool and what do we call it, and those are some of my favorite parts of designing.
First of all, I can imagine that artifacts, this is tailor-made for the design new artifacts. Are you using any of the mechanics from Stay Alive?
I think that, again, it's early days, but I think that aren't going to use I think that if you want to go more horror, you could use the mechanics from Stay Alive and they would just sync right up perfectly. But I think that what we're going to go for is a little more heartbreak than horror. Like it's like that, it's that fine line right in the middle, right? And so like it's more about sacrifice and making commitments and giving something up. So it's less like, am I afraid? And more like, am I ripping my heart out of my chest to achieve this thing that really matters to me? So we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. I'm very much looking forward to it.
I'm really curious.
There's two things I have to say about what you just said, what you've been saying, Shanna. First of all, you made a statement. You said the lyrical nature of this, and that's just like that draws you right in, because now I'm listening to this more like an old folk tale. I'm looking at it more like an old folk tale, or I'm thinking about when my grandfather used to sit on the out on the stoop with his guitar or his banjo or his ukulele, and play, in those moments, because my grandfather was a huge storyteller in our family, and that was something he would do. That was, I know you remember stuff like that, Tammie, and, they would tell these stories and they would pull you in. The second thing you just said was about the language, and that is just, again, I can't imagine, I mean, my imagination is like going crazy, and I can't imagine just how much fun this is going to be. But I just want to say thank you, you and Tammie, Sam, and Cam, thank them for us. We hope to get them on the show too, because this is like exciting. I'll be honest with you, I'm fanboying out here.
Speaking of which, Dean, the chat is really getting excited. Everyone seems to be, getting one. Atlas asked, he said, "You're talking less gore, more soul destroying." I love it.
I like what Darkon said. He said, it's like my grandma, I'm burning different candles for different things, like burning green ones that are supposed to bring money and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Dogfish Fu said, "I love the sound of this. I'm not just afraid, I'm afraid to lose something."
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy Kaufman asked another question, which we know you can't answer this, but you sort of did. He asked, what will the next Kickstarter be? We already said it's Old Gods and no thank you, Evil.
No thank you, Old Gods.
That is a Tammie question. Yes.
Well, I can tell you this. Everybody at MCG, is amazing, and as we're here, because it's getting on toward evening time, I can tell you that somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, there is a person called Monte Cook, and his brain is just amazing, and he already has some wonderful, wonderful ideas that are it's gonna blow your mind. So yes, I don't think you could stop the man from designing. I think. I think it's like life itself to him. So he absolutely has given us a little taste of something that he's been thinking about, and it's amazing. So stay tuned. There will be more coming soon. I can promise that.
And guys, one other thing for the MCG, once again, happy anniversary to you two as well. Happy anniversary, 10 years, guys, 10 years. And
MCG is going to almost be old enough to drink on its own. The warehouse.
And we still love each other very much after 10 years.
It's true.
Most people cannot say that.
I mean, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. These guys have been my brothers for the last 5 years, and you know what? I don't want to get rid of them either.
I'm hard to get rid of. I don't go away.
As much as me and you fight too.
How's Devil Dandy Dogs? Is that done?
I like the little jab at the end. Is that done?
No, I meant as it's done because I want it in my hands like right now.
It is the most story narrative game I have ever made, and it is super weird and wonderful, and I love it, but it is not yet done. I sort of took a break to work on the Kickstarter stuff for Old Gods of Appalachia, and have returned to it just in the last couple of weeks. So it is at the forefront of my mind. I woke up yesterday with like this whole sort of element of it figured out, and I have cards and D6s, tarot cards and D6s strewn all over my office as I sort of work on it. So it's coming along. And it is going to be really different than a lot of our games. It doesn't use Cypher system. It only uses 3d6s and a tarot, like a unique tarot deck that we're making for the game. And it's really narrative, and it's been really fun and hard. It's so hard to make a new system. I've scrapped the whole thing now twice. We went to playtest, and playtest completely like just bombed, which is why playtests are so important. They're like editors, you need them. And so after the second scrap, I'm now working on the third iteration, which I think is getting closer to where we want to be. And we will play test it the middle of May. So it's coming soon.
First of all, don't blame me. You blame Charles. When we had Charles on, he was really hyping it up. And that's been on my radar and on my mind since we had Charles on.
Yeah,
I'm throwing Charles under the bus.
Charles is the culprit.
And since I was accused of being a jab, this was all a ploy. Like this last hour was all a ploy for me to ask you this one question.
Nice.
And I know you saw what I wrote on Twitter because you replied to it. Last time you were here, right? And I quote, you said, "I would love to write more predation if the fans demanded it." And we did a poll in the survey, and we asked every setting that people wanted to see. And of course, Numenera and the Strange are going to be 1, 2, because, that's, those are the flagships. But guess what number 3 was, Shanna?
Oh,
and
look at that. Oh.
Number 3 was predation. So I think the fans are speaking.
I love that.
This is all important for me to ask this one question.
Yeah. Boy, it's one of those settings where like I feel like I'm waiting for the right idea. Like, because I never want to make something just to sell it, right? I don't want it to be like extraneous or not fun or like not add something cool and new. And I guess I haven't really come up with that like amazing idea that's gonna add something so awesome to predation. Like, and I bet it'll come. It just hasn't come yet. We don't like to do sort of supplements. Is that what we're gonna call it? That's what we'll call it. I love it. But we're finding out new dinosaur stuff all the time, and I'm about to watch the new dinosaur.
The new Jurassic Park.
No, the nonfiction one. That's.
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about.
About titles, I can't remember the name of it, but I suspect that both that and the new Jurassic Park will come up with some cool brainstormers. So.
And chat has been going crazy about a predation Netflix show that. We got to find an agent to make that happen, because that was another thing we surveyed, and that was the setting that they thought was going to be the best Netflix show.
Yeah, I think we need Numenera and Predation as Netflix shows.
We think that too. We're ready.
Netflix.
Look us up. Who do I talk to? Point me at him.
Listen,
I just thought, I was like, oh, when I get shouted on, I'm a corner around for predation. Everybody loves predation.
Predation is awesome.
No, I was surprised that it was so high on the list, because Taurus is really has a huge following, and actually predation and pretty much everything you wrote kind of fell right behind the 2.
Yeah, you're like in the top 5, Shanna. I think all your work's in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I really like. we all work so hard to make beautiful things, so it's nice to be appreciated.
Well, I think what it is, Shanna, you said it tonight. It's that word lyrical. There's a very song or poetic way to what you put together, and it works. Sean is our resident, like, I can take you out there, and you're gonna enjoy going out there. Bruce is our, you know what? I've got so much stuff left for you that you just are not going to know what to do with it. Shanna is the person that has us sitting there going, oh, yeah. You know, and Monte, like Anthony says, I just got to quote Anthony, the illest pin game in the industry. They come up with it all. So,
I love
you guys are, other places have a trifecta where you guys have a quadrifill because you guys kill it. You guys are awesome. It's a quintuplet of awesomeness. Keep up the great work. Thank you guys again for coming on the show.
We have a bonus question. It's more like a statement. It said, please make a chupacabra stat block.
A chupacabra, nice.
Legit.
Ooh, but now that we're kind of wrapping up here, I already have your Twitter links in our chat here. I'll link them again. But is there anywhere else on the internet where our fine audience can find you guys? Hear more from your brains and whatnot.
I like being in the CU Discord, so I think that's a great place. Hit me up there, right?
Awesome. You heard it here first, guys. Talk to Tammie on CU Discord.
That's right.
Ask her when she's making her new game.
Oh, yeah,
I'm so much trouble.
It's infectious.
I'm gonna hurt that later.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
Oh man, it's been a great night.
Like my stomach hurt.
You guys are awesome.
I made my hibiscus and rose tea and have not taken a single drink this whole night because you guys have just kept me so. I've been great. It's been great. I'm gonna take a sip now.
That sounds delicious.
No, it sounds yummy.
I love tea. I'm a tea connoisseur. I have basically a tea pantry.
Cool.
I mean, we can't thank you guys enough for coming on. You guys have always been so wonderful to not only Cypher Unlimited Discord server, but the entire, MCG community. You're the best to your fans. Everyone knows it, and we can't thank you enough. Tammie, thank you so much for everything you do for us. Like, all these interviews, everything that happens behind the scenes because of the conversations I'm having with Tammie and Latia. So, I can't thank you guys so much for everything you guys do, not only for us, but for your entire fan base and community. You guys are totally, totally, totally awesome.
Well, I told Tammie from now on, we can't even call ourselves. We're family. Mm-hmm. We're family, So it's important. So, Ant?
Al, you want to say anything before I do my spiel?
No, just thank you guys so much for coming on. It's a blast as always. And we always love talking to you. So whenever you want to come on, talk some more, be sure to do that. And definitely one of you or both of you run us through some Old Gods sometime. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Tammie under the bus is canon. We have it on tape like 3 times.
And guys, we will be. Some of us will be at Gamehole Con. I'm definitely going to be there.
Thank you all so much for being awesome. I extend this to you and everyone listening. I feel like it's such a bright, shining light of positivity and joy and excitement in the game industry. And we all need that. We're all here for good things and good people. And I love that you all bring that together in a single place where people can share their awesomeness. And it makes me very happy.
Oh, we appreciate it. If you like us and you like what we do, visit the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monte Cook Games. We have over 4,000 members and growing. We have games being run every day, conversations being had about every setting that Monte Cook Games produces. And yes, you could talk to members of the MCG team. Tammie already said you can reach out any time of day, 2 o'clock in the morning. You can hit Tammie up.
Hey,
she's going to respond.
Right. 2 a.m. is good. 9 a.m. not so much. All right.
My type of person.
If Discord is not for you, join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's still great conversations being had. If you want to support us in little ways, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs there. We really appreciate it. Or give us a follow or subscribe here on Twitch. Our videos are always free, but we really appreciate the little support. You could give us a donation on Ko-fi if you like. Like I said, our videos are always free. It helps us out with things with Zoom course. Or visit our online store and pick up some cool Cypher Unlimited merch like me and Dean have. Al never wears it because he's too cool for school. Last but not least, we love you guys.
Oh, yes, thank you guys so much for stopping by. We love you guys so much, and I'm just waiting to premiere the cape. That's all. I'm just waiting. Once I get that cape, that's all I'm gonna wear. But anyways, thank you guys so much again, Tammie and Shanna. Thank you everybody for watching. If you missed the beginning of it, if you want to show it to someone else tomorrow, it'll be on YouTube for everyone, along with all the appropriate links and whatnot. And again, just one last time, if you haven't, be sure to check out the Old Gods of Appalachia Kickstarter and more from Monte Cook Games at these links here below. And yeah, thank you guys again so
left
much.
to the Kickstarter, y'all. 7 days.
7 days.
A week.
Woo-hoo.
Now's the time. But yeah, and from us at the CU, we will see you later.